everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition. And today we are going to get into the topic of being anchoring in a reality and being weighed down by a reality. And I was originally going to do this as a live, and I've had some issues with getting some of the live stuff to work. So hopefully I'll be back on that maybe next week. But until then, I still wanted to post it. So we're just going to do it in this format and stop trying to make the other one work. Now, I was going to start this off by talking about how the old saying that, this reality is a red hot mess, right? Which is what all our human realities are. And that is a very tough concept for us to come to grips with when we are constructing them and deconstructing them. Because even in our human realities, we know some are such a hot mess that even in our human consciousness, we know that these just are just a mess. They don't work. And a lot of those in our human years, we'll let those just kind of fade away. We move on to different things. Our human lets them fall away, crash down around them, but we don't actively move them out. And there's a reason we don't. We don't because we don't really know how to. We don't really realize we can move them out. We don't realize we created them. And because we created them, we are in a way, we're the master of them. And we can decide what goes and what stays. But in our human consciousness, we don't remember that, so we don't have that capability. And that's why you see a lot of people, when they talk about ascension and they talk about different aspects of ascension, why people want for a while, and then this can shift. They want ascended people in their life. And they want ascended people in their life because they show them that they have a free will. They have a culpability. They have an accountability. Where when you get to the point where you want to hear that, you might still be not at the point where you want to change that, right? Those are two different aspects of ascension. I understand I created it. Oh, wait, now I really want to try to fix it, or change it, or make it something else. And for a while, we don't know how to make it something else. So when you're in certain phases of deconstructing your human reality, and you start to realize, well, they're kind of all a red hot mess. There's just different degrees of it. There's different degrees of completely dysfunctional, and then just not highest aligned. And one person might argue that if it's not highest aligned, it's completely dysfunctional. We're going to go on a sliding scale today and say that just because something was, not completely dysfunctional, it's still not highest line, it has to go. That is why some hang on longer than others. Part of it is because we have not, they're anchored in deeper within us than we think they are, right? We're pulling them down. We're weighing them down in a sense. We're holding them here, but we're not. There's sort of a different imagery. When you think of being weighed down a reality, you can think of that old cartoon character where the guy has all his weight on his shoulders and he's kind of bending down. It's like he's doing, I guess it's a deadlift. And he's just weighed down by all the weights. Whereas anchoring it down, you're kind of pulling it down and putting stakes in the ground. It's like you're putting a tent in the ground in a sense. You're anchoring it down, but you're not feeling the blunt of it all crushing you. It's more of a participant part in anchoring it in, and there's an excitement to anchoring it in, and what's going to come from it, and what it is. But in our human realities, we will let them weigh us down, and for a while we kind of think that's the same thing. We kind of think when someone says anchor in a reality, that means we're going to be weighed down by it. That does not mean we're not responsible for it, because we are responsible for our realities. We are responsible for weighing down our realities. We are responsible for weighing down, it's probably not the word I want to use there, but we are responsible for bringing them in, right? Pulling them in. And we do a lot of work to do that, right? We do a lot of work to do that, because when you're the only person in your reality that feels what a higher aligned reality is, you're the only one in your reality that can see why certain things are not working anymore, whether it be we can go pretty superficial to pretty, pretty non-superficial. Paint color, the way the yard looks, and then to go up to the partner you're with or the job you have. It is all sort of, your soul sees them all as the same. Does it support your reality, your vibration, or does it not support your vibration? And it's as simple as that. Now, are humans going to put these things on a pedestal? It's going to say, well, the job's more important than the paint color. Not really. We're going to create a story that the job's more important than the paint color because that's how our human's going to view it. Because the paint color is not going to, in a sense, in our human consciousness, pay the mortgage, right? Support us, be able to buy things we need. But in a sense, it will. If it's not supporting your vibration to bring in other forms of monetary support, right? And these are the connections you make later on in ascension. You start to understand that. And because you're the ones that can pick out what supports you and what does not support you, and understand it's important to be able to move out what you can. There might be some things right now you can't move out. If you share a home with someone and they don't want you to declutter but so much. Sometimes we have constrictions placed on us by other people in the reality. And then we have to decide, can we move enough stuff around to live in that for a little while, knowing that eventually that's got to break on its own. And that's a decision we have to make. That's not a decision that anyone can tell you what's the right thing to do. You're just going to know, is this a deal breaker? Can I survive with this stuff in the reality, or is it's just too much, it does not support me? Or can I shift things I can shift over here, and then I feel like my frequency is supported? And that's what we're getting to when we talk about bringing in new realities. You cannot bring in anything else unless your frequency increases. And you notice your frequency is increasing when all of a sudden the external does not work anymore, because it's not aligned with your internal new frequency. It was aligned with your old frequency. That's why it really starts to bother you, because it stands out. It is a sore thumb. It is a sore thumb. It is not what you felt like. It doesn't bring you joy anymore. And that's why you go through a lot of stuff, sort of, when you go through a lot of these different reality shifts and frequency shifts, because something that was so amazing and supportive to you 6 months ago, now it's just a rock, or now it's just a piece of furniture. And before, it really brought up something else in you, but it doesn't do that anymore. It no longer holds that for you anymore. It just no longer has that pizzazz for you anymore. It just is what it is, and it's just not that exciting anymore. So we go through so many different iterations of moving things out. And just to circle back, when we're the ones that can see that, then we are responsible for making it happen. And you will do a lot of these realities, bringing them in, anchoring them down by yourself, because you're the only one that can see the vision. You're the only one that understands why it's important. You're the only one that won't procrastinate on doing it, because you know it's important to unlock the next part of your story, to unlock the next reality. And even if you don't see that reality immediately come in, it's the precursor. I have to get this stuff done. I can't wait on it. And because we operate in that there is no time, in the sense that there is no reason, there's no better time than now. I have to get this stuff done. You feel like it's pressing on you to do it, and you understand the importance. But people who are not in that consciousness, who are not in those spaces, who can't, what that is still supports them, in a sense. They have not moved beyond that frequency where it is bothering them. They can't feel the difference. They can't see the difference. Now, that doesn't say once you shift it, they won't feel better, because now what happens in their case is the external is going to start to bring allowing their vibration to come up inside. So it kind of works on a lot of different levels. For a while, we use the external to raise our vibration, and then once our vibration gets to a certain point, now we have to move the external to now support the new vibration. And it goes for other people in your reality too. So when you're the only one that can see it and what needs to be done, you're the one that's responsible for doing it. And that is why it is so exhausting when you have a lot of realities, which is what's happened to me this year. I've had a lot of things I've had to anchor in and bring in, and I'm the only one that's doing it, because I'm the only one that can see it needs to be done. I'm the only one that understands the importance of doing it, and I need to be able to support my vibration, and I can't do it in the old status quo. So I'm the one doing it all. So we're the one doing all the work. And when we're the one doing all the work and bringing it all in, we can start to feel the difference between bringing one in and supporting ones that are not aligned anymore. And it is two sides, in a sense, of the same coin. Our human will support a reality, even if it sacrifices their core, their soul, their health. You know, our human will weigh it down. It'll support the weight of it. Whereas when you're anchoring it down, you're bringing it in, you're going to do what you can to get it to flourish. It's kind of like, you know, I've been growing grass. Growing grass. This could be a really dry analogy, or I might be able to bring it around. Because I actually have been growing grass. That might be now. I might see why I have been. might understand that on a different level now. You know, you do all the work to get it down, and you do all the, you know, the aeration and the you know, the raking before, and then the seeding and the building up the turf and everything you're doing to get it ready, and making sure you got a good foundation to anchor it in, right? And then you have to care it for it. You know, and growing grass is a little bit expedited because, you know, like the first 30 days, I felt the need. I got to water it a lot. I got to get it down. I got to get it going. I might get some other things popping up in here that aren't aligned. We can deal with those as we go, you know, or realize it's not going to be perfect. You know, maybe it's not going to be the most perfect set of grass, but it still loads way better than it was, and it is supporting life, whether it be everything maybe I wanted it to be in my human consciousness. It's still supporting a beautiful environment. So we water it, we take care of it, we try not to get attached to it, which our humans still will want to do that to all the new realities we try to cultivate and bring in. And that's what our ascended selves show us after a while. Don't get attached to it. Don't get too far into it, you know, because this one might flourish. It might not exactly be what you want it to be. It might be the gateway to something else. Because we put our all into it, but we don't get attached to it, which is completely different than what our human would do. Where our human could put its all into it, but it got really attached to it. It got identified to it. It became wrapped up in it. So when it was not there anymore, or when it started to go awry, we didn't want to have to get rid of it, you know, because we attach your identity to it. Whereas here, you're not doing that. You're just helping it come in. If it's a room you have to paint, you're getting the room painted, you're prepping the walls, you're bringing it in. You know, you're doing the labor to get it in and there, and then seeing what happens with it, seeing what comes next. You know, what do I want to do now? You know, what is it? It gets the creative juices flowing, it gets you to understand how you're bringing stuff in. We tend to think when you hear the word a new reality that it's got to be some grandiose thing, whereas you're bringing it in piece by piece. You know, you don't just wake up one day and you live in Candyland. You know, in a sense you kind of do, because you see the beauty in everything. So in a way, you just see the world in a different way. You see your realities in a different light. But we're the ones that have to bring this stuff in. But you don't want to get weighed down by the burden of them. You know, you bring them in, you let them flourish, you see what happens, you move on to another one. You cultivate it as much as you need to cultivate it to get it to start going, and you can move on to another thing you have to do. And you might feel like it's one thing right after the other. For a lot of us this year, it has been one thing right after the other. It's been a big year in aligning, letting go of what's not, you know, closing down realities that aren't working, moving on from them and focusing on what you really need to focus on, and paring down everything else. You know, what is not that important right now? What feels like more of a priority? What is going to support my vibration moving forward? And what kind of feels like an old vibration of something maybe you like to do that you don't like to do anymore, but you don't want to say you don't like to do it because you had a big identity in it before. We get all wrapped up in this stuff. You know, we get all wrapped up in the what it should be. You know, and we start to keep things weighing us down because we don't want to let them go. You know, and you're going to start to feel the difference. You know, when you're bringing in and anchoring in a reality, yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, it's exhausting. But there's an excitement to it. You know, when you are being weighed down by one and you are doing that on purpose, and believe me, understand when I say you were doing it on purpose. You are the one keeping it there. The minute you put that weight down, do not be surprised when no one comes along to pick that shit up, because nobody else cares as much as you do. Because if they did, they would be doing the same thing. When you're the only one doing it, trust me, when you stop, no one's going to give a shit. They're not going to care if it's there or it's not there. It doesn't matter to them. If it mattered, they're weighing down something that matters to them. Okay? So we always get this big story in our head of how hard it is to let something go, how much it's going to be to let this go and let this go, and it'll be so difficult. No one gives a shit when you let it go. No one gives a shit when you put the weight down and go, whatever, fuck this reality. I don't care anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm doing it out of obligation, and I don't really think anybody fucking cares if I do it or not. So why am I still here doing it? And you're draining your energy, which could be placed and anchoring in something you are excited about. And that's where you really have to take a hard look. Am I really anchoring in something new? Or am I just weighed down by something old, and I'm trying to convince myself that it's something else? Because sometimes the worst thing for our human consciousness, and because it shows us that none of it really fucking mattered, is when you let it go and no one did care. You know, when you break up with that person and he didn't seem to care that much, or you leave the job and guess what? No one's that upset about it. Or, you know, all these realities we thought we were so pivotal to, and we were putting so much into them and so much of ourselves into them to keep them going, It goes into the imbalance, which is most of the human stuff you're going to work through is the imbalance. You give 100%, no one else is giving anything. That's a lot of what you work through when you start closing out realities, and when you understand you're putting in so much and no one else is. And why is that? And that doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense as to why I'm doing all this and no one else is. So those are just the sort of things we start to really have to set with and understand, like, why is this happening this way? Why am I doing all this and nobody cares? So as we kind of continue, you know, to bring in the new, because we're in that part of the year where we're kind of getting to boots on the ground. If you have not started doing what you felt like you were supposed to be doing this year, you're going to start to feel a real push from your reality to get it going. You're going to start to understand. And one thing to remember about all those realities that are weighing you down, eventually your universe will break the reality for you, you know, and it will not be pretty. And it will not be joyful for your human, because it will break it for you, because it keeps you shackled to something old. It's like that old devil tarot card when they're shackled to whatever the reality is. But it's all in our mind. You know, we create the story that keeps us there. We create the story that keeps us from doing something else. We create all of that. And when you're anchoring in new, don't be surprised when you let go of the old and try to anchor in the new. No one supports that. You know, I've been doing a lot of stuff. No one supports that. In fact, all I've gotten is abrasiveness from it, from trying to doing a lot of the stuff. You know, but I know it's important. I know it needs to be done. And when I know it needs to be done, I'm the one that's going to have to do it. I'm going to get out there and do it. Yes, it might take away from other things. No, I haven't been able to do as many videos this year. And no, I haven't done as many other things this year, because all my time has been to a lot of this other stuff. Now, but that's how it's supposed to be this year. You know, and will that shift in a couple months? I have a feeling it probably will. But everything else you start to do will be at a different vibration, because now the external can support you, and you won't be as exhausted, you won't be as tired, because your external supports you when you anchor in all those things. So if it's the smallest thing, you know, don't think of, because it's a small thing your universe is showing you to do, that it's not a pivotal part of bringing in that new reality. It's kind of like a reverse Jenga, where you pull one piece out and the whole thing falls. Think about it as, you know, you're putting one piece in and everything built up around that. You know, yeah, maybe you just needed to get rid of that old chair, you know, and it just really bothered you. It's like, it's just, I just need this out of here. And then all of a sudden you just feel better. You feel lighter. You feel like it's sometimes so many things we just let go. We don't want to notice it. We don't want to do the work, you know, because we don't see the importance in the small stuff. Our human sees no importance in the small stuff. What it's going to see is small stuff, but these are all big building blocks for what we are. Oh, now it's windy. Might be why my internet's squirrely today. I don't know if maybe one day I'll take you out and show you the new grass I have planted. Some of it's coming in very nice, some of it not so much. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm gonna sign off on this today. Hopefully I'll get. I do feel like I'll get back on my streaming schedule in May. That's my goal. So, all right, maybe by 5/5. 5/5 feels like a good day for that. All right, keep practicing the art of intuition.